Dr. Adriana Popescu here with you with another episode of Triumphing Over Trauma, our inspirational video series. And I'm happy to have with me as my guest today, Kellye Alsop. Kellye, tell us a little bit about your story.
Hi, everybody. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you, Adriana, for having me. I'm really appreciative, and I hope it does touch people's lives. So, through my life, I was given away at 2 weeks old to my grandparents, and so I had abandonment issues. Later, when my family, my dad and stepmother, broke up, I became suicidal through that. Just the loneliness, the feeling of I'm so alone, and I didn't want to be here. And so I carried that with me throughout life. And when things would get hard, that was my MO. That was the automatic, direction I would go, thinking, I went to church, heaven sounds great, let's go now. But knowing, um, that doesn't sound great, and I never wanted to leave a mess for anybody else, or, how would that happen? But then later in life, in the '07-'08 crash, after my husband of many years and having 7 children together, his solution to the finances and things were to drop half the family, and the little ones and I were left homeless. And so once again, my MO goes back to I just want to die and get out of this, earthly experience, this difficult situation. And so from there, I, you know, began to climb out of it. And yes.
And tell us, like, how did you do that? I mean, that's unbelievable, to hear what you went through with 7 kids and homeless and all the things. I mean, all of it. Um, what were some of the things that helped you to pull out of all of that?
Well, I first um, wanted to survive, really. It was just about survival, and I had children to take care of. So I realized, I can't just be selfish and check out. I got to take care of these kids. And we had homeschooled. And so, I couldn't just drop them off at a school. And at that point, I didn't have an address. I was in an unsafe town. And so, it was survival. And I constantly in my head, so I want to share with you the shift that happened.
Mhm.
And so in my head, I'm like, oh my God, I gave you the best years of my life, and I'm never going to have a happy family. This was my chance to have a happy family. And then at some point, my daughter bought a shirt, or, I bought it for her, and it said, attitude is everything.
Mm.
And I'm like, wait a minute. If attitude is everything, I got to get a new one. And I decided, I did not give you the best years of my life. The best is yet to come. And I took a picture with my children in San Diego, like with the beautiful ocean in the back, myself, and it was on Mother's Day, and I made that my Christmas card. It was just me and them, like, hey, there isn't a father in this situation here. And I said, the best is yet to come. And so I had that shift then, and it still didn't make everything easy, and, I still did have times, your grief cycle, you get to go through the grief cycle, it's important, I learned, since the issues are in your tissues, not to stuff it down.
Mhm.
But sometimes one of the tools I used was denial. And
Mhm.
so I did that all the way growing up, and then especially in a very difficult marriage, I would get a fancy box in my head, and I would put whatever issue was in there, and it had foil paper, because I don't know, it's shiny, and I'd put a big old bow on there, and then I would get up like on a step stool and put it in the high shelf of my walk-in closet of my mind. And
Mhm.
so I was like, okay, that's not really happening right now, so that I could go forward, and I actually started 4 businesses. So since I had been in finance, I did fitness and finance, and then family, the F's. So I couldn't, because I ruined my finance using every ounce of credit just to feed those kids before the breakup. So I
Mhm.
couldn't go back to that, but I thought, you know what? I learned to work hard. I'm not ashamed to work hard,
Mhm.
and work's a blessing, and I'm gonna show my kids you don't just shut up and sit down, And
Mhm.
so I started, house cleaning, yard work. I was out there doing yard work, and for commercial real estate places, I did a handyman service and to service those houses, and also property preservation. So you get to ask, what are my assets? What are my assets? I know how to work hard. And plus, then while I was out there, sometimes I'd be crying in the morning, or wanting to cry inside and hold it. But when you're outside in the sunshine, I realized, oh, I was humming. I'm like, what's that about? What do I have to hum and be happy about? But I learned in my trials through one of the people I lived with, she was a Seventh day Adventist. Well, they actually are the only, or have one of the only blue zones in the whole United States. And it's down across, it's the neighboring city to where I was born. It's called Loma Linda, California. And I was born in San Bernardino, where the first McDonald's was, and we had it all the time. I'm like that. My parents didn't get the email, like, hey, get over to Loma Linda, do it that way. That's the way to live. And so it's called New Start: Nutrition, Exercise, Water, Sunshine, Temperance, Air, Rest, and Trust. So definitely, follow your path, trust your path. The last part is crucial, that you get to trust. If you don't believe in God, they say trust in God. It can be the universe, or like I was a physics major that I didn't finish, but everything's energy.
Yeah.
So you realize, trust the energy is guiding you. And we talk a lot about visualization. We're in Jack Canfield's world, and
Mhm.
I did that prior. And so you visualize what you want, and you're going to attract that energy into your life. But with that as well, we have traumas from childhood, and other people say also generational traumas. Like in my family, there was like generations of alcoholism.
Mhm.
And so to break that, it requires more work. And I did just do, I went to some professional counseling, and after, getting somebody, or leaving the kids, driving there, finding a parking, getting up there, waiting, paying my $70, starting at birth, next week, starting, a few days after birth, I'm like, I'm going to be dead before we ever get to my trauma here, So I ended up not doing that. And I've done other things like emotional identity resolution therapy, which actually the father of the children, his brother does that. I had done it for 40 years. So also teaches meditation. So I did more like meditation, prayer, visualization.
Mhm.
Recently, I learned about, I went to a trip where Jack talks about rhythmia, and
Mhm.
Mike was there, and he teaches, you are the answer. And
Mhm.
I did a lot of leadership work. And a friend of mine who was molested for a long time, she goes, "This is better than any program, any counseling, get it." And so I went through this leadership program, and that's where too I learned I matter.
Yeah.
Not just that I'm a wife or that I'm a mother, which I am so grateful. And in my book, I say that I'm grateful for the father of the seven children. I'll always be grateful to him for that. But we weren't equipped. We didn't. I thought, well, he's a doctor. I'm going to be a physicist. We got this right, and we both were into fitness and health, but there's so much more about the emotional aspect of relationships,
Yeah.
and then the financial. So you definitely want to handle your finances. So the in divorce care. So I did that one as well. There's a workshop in person at various places called divorce care, and it
Mhm.
really helps you. But in there, they said, you know, everyone blames the mom. A
Mhm.
lot of it falls on the mom. And they said, yes, handle your emotions even. So we're talking about emotions, but they said you better handle your finances, because everyone's asking for money at the grocery store, and it's gone up lately, right? So
Mhm.
you get to figure out the money part, and that's real important. Also, I told you I did fitness, like I listened to Jack LaLanne. I don't know if you're old enough or any of you.
Oh, I remember.
Yes, well, somehow, I didn't always like those cartoons, all the stupid stuff. Like it's not true. Why I don't know how I just got onto the mental, aspect, and I found Jack LaLanne, and he brings on his wife and his dog. So it's so
Mhm.
cute. She's still alive, Elaine LaLanne. So it's such a rhyme. But it brought women into fitness. So at my 18th birthday, I drove to a health club and got working out. And so I realized when I'm homeless, but I still could go work out. I got jobs at gyms. And then also I could go into the gym. There was a shower there. And so even homeless, I lived at an office by night
Mhm.
and homeless and worked by day.
Mhm.
And so the gyms, and then I'd get to different ones as we're making money. I got to a really nice one where they had an indoor and an outdoor pool. And so, the kids, I had it made it fun. As
Mhm.
well, we had someone lent us a Joyce Meyer CD set. And when I gave it back, I forgot the one that was in the car. So again, a little while ago, and but we got to where we memorized that thing, and my we could quote it. And one time my daughter obviously recognized that, I'm having a down day, and she goes, in the Joyce Myers, her kids worked with her just like my kids were at that point, a little bit different work, but Joyce was having an argument with one of her kids, and the other boy said, "Mom, we're just going to have a good time anyway." And so my daughter quoted that to me. She goes, "Mom, we're just gonna have a good time anyway." And I looked, I'm like, oh my God, am I gonna walk my talk, or was I all talk? All those years I taught them this Christian stuff, the joy of the Lord is my strength and all that. I'm like, so I had to make a decision
Mhm.
right then. And I decided I'm gonna walk my talk. And so we made everything fun and group exercise. In fact, once at court, I called not the 911, what is it, the suicide prevention line. And I go, "Hey, I don't want to commit suicide right yet, but I'm here and I don't have anybody to talk to because the church had cut me off. My family wasn't supportive." And so she said, "What do you do for yourself?" I said, "Positive affirmations," which I highly recommend. And she said, I go, "What do you have in mind?" She goes, "Exercise." I'm like, "Oh, I got it covered." And then I did experience a rape. So, but it taught me one of the greatest lessons, because I know time's an issue, but it taught me, you guys, we are a spirit coming down, having an earthly experience in this body. And then we have this soul, which is our mind, will, and emotions. And, yeah, they can move our body around, because I thought, oh, I'm strong. No, not up against a 200-pound man that's, a surprise attack, right? And so that's upsetting, but you can move my body. It can upset me, only if I let it, but it's pretty upsetting, and you want to feel it, not stuff it, right? So your mind, will, and emotions can get all haywire. But what you cannot do is touch my spirit. And so my spirit grew because of that, because we're just down here having this experience. And if you look at that way, look at everything that way, it is so you like that's how I got my power back, by saying, I'm a spirit and you can't touch that. So a lot of things can happen in life, but you get to heal it. I did a summit, heal, overcome, and thrive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Such
wrote.
such important information that you're sharing, Kelly. Thank you for that. And I know that you really are on a mission to get information like this out there in the world. You've written a couple of books. If people want to find out more about you and their work, where can they go?
Okay, so my two books, the one with Jack, Leadership Playbook, that's on Amazon. I know they put it in, it's in Barnes and Noble. And my How to Thrive Through Divorce and Other Life Traumas is currently just on Amazon, and then it's going to go on all the other platforms as well. And so that's coming out. But I'm also, my website's kellyalsop.com. You can find me on all the socials. Usually it's Kellye Alsop. Sometimes there's a Kellye Alsop one, and currently having a lot of fun on there. Yes, and and any of the previous Jack Canfield events, and some of us are keeping that going, but we're all over, aren't we?
Thank you so much, Kellye. Thank you for sharing your time and your story with us. And if you have liked this episode, please do share, like, subscribe, comment. Let's get this out there in the more in the hands of the people who are looking for this information, looking for some inspiration and some hope, because it's a rough world out there right now. So
Right.
thanks so
But there's
much.
totally hope and you're not alone. Yes. Thank you, Adriana. That was awesome. Thank you for having me.